Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 272. Memento Mori, the inevitability of death should be celebrated. This is probably, this is an uplifting video despite the macabre topic. And that's that it's much like the video I made on the idea of detachment in the sense of a shoba, which is Buddhistic. The idea there is you're ruminating, you're meditating on basically a corpse. In some practices you would literally be meditating while observing it basically crepitate. The idea is to remove the attachment to the physical body as a prelude to actually dying, because the idea is you've already, insofar as a living thing can experience death by simply ruminating on it, thinking about it, meditating on it, that you've prepared yourself for that inevitable transformation into a pile of yellow bones, basically. The idea of simply celebrating death, though, of making it something to be satirized and laughed about, it's funny because this, if you look at like the dance macabre and imagery throughout time, in art and so forth, it overlaps with periods of great suffering. What you end up getting is an insensitivity to death, to the point where it almost becomes a comical subject. Some of the greatest art that we've got is basically on this particular subject. A lot of entertainment has sprung from this. If you look at early cartoons, from the very early era before they started censoring US film, most of it's like dancing skeletons and weird shit like that. There's people drinking poison and killing each other, and it's in a comic context, and it was considered hilarious at the time. But it's very macabre. It's grave humor. And what I would say, though, is that death, if you don't see it as an end, like let's say, like me, you believe in a reincarnation process, death is not, it doesn't mean anything. It ceases to have any meaning beyond the retiring of one physical form and the birthing of snibbity snabs, the birthing of the next one. And that's a good thing, because what happens is when you get old, you wear down. You know, your joints hurt, you start forgetting things, you basically become Joe Biden, you break down physically and mentally. Now, I know the mental state is technically an extension of the physical state of the brain, but semi-separate them. And so when you die, when you get a new body, well, now it's fresh and new. It's sort of like if you look at the seasons. The flowers and the grasses and the trees and stuff, aren't they much more vibrant around mid-spring as opposed to early autumn? Like even by the end of summer, it's still hot and stuff, but things start getting a little bit more drab. The green is a little bit darker. There's some more brown and tan and stuff. You know, the grass, some more dead growth in it. Things just aren't as vibrant. They have to be killed. In the sense of winter in order to scatter their seeds and then come back. In the sense of annuals, perennials die back. When we talk about immortality, there's a reason why the pine tree is usually used to represent that, because it stays green through the winter. And so, hence your Christmas tree, by the way, symbol of the Trinity that was originally hung upside down by the pagans. But that being said, the Momento Mori, the idea of remembering or anticipating or giving imagery to death, I think is a very good thing. It used to be very common back in times when death was more present in people's lives. It's been not really a thing in the modern era so much, and the reason why, if you look back 100 years ago, if you had 10 kids, 5 or 6 of them died in infancy. They would prop up dead bodies and take pictures of them. They'd have parties with dead bodies. It was a very flippant thing because it was so present. You cherished life more, by the way, because if you were old enough to understand the concept of life and death, you were past the danger zone. And so basically, once you got past the childbed disease era and you were like, you know, hitting puberty, you had it made. And then you'd probably watch 5 or 6 of your siblings then die, but you had made it past the most dangerous stage in life. If you look at the era of tuberculosis, certainly, and smallpox and some of these other diseases that now really aren't a thing in the developed world, definitely if you contrast the developed world with parts of the developing or undeveloped world, you see the same thing. For instance, if you look at Eastern European humor, a lot of it is very dark and it's grave humor. There's a reason for that, and it's not all because of the suffering of communism, although that definitely helps. If you look at the celebrations that you have in parts of undeveloped areas in Asia, if you look at rural versus urban China and the differential practices there with regards to dead ancestors and bodies and so forth, if you look at the Day of the Dead in Mexico, there's a huge difference between developed cultures where, most infants survive, and places which are still basically, as far as infant mortality, as far as women dying in childbirth, men getting killed, in dangerous jobs, working in a coal mine or something, there's a huge difference culturally and religiously. It bleeds into the spirituality of the people. What I would say, though, is in association with the idea of ruminating on death to prepare yourself for that inevitability, if you believe in a continuation, afterlife, reincarnation, whatever, even if it's a more abstract, like, oh yeah, well, my soul's energy just permeates the cosmos. Well, death is something to be celebrated then. It's a renewal. It should be seen more as a renewal than an end. That's about all. Peace out.